Chapter 700. Old Deng, let's go. Seeing that Yun Haoxuan was the first to enter the tomb, the tall elder beside him also glanced at his companion. His name was Lu Wuing, and he was one of the 5 elders of the Floating Cloud sect. His cultivation base was at level 8 Mystique Venerable Realm. As for the short elder beside Lu Wuing, his name was Deng Qingchuan, and he was also one of the 5 elders of the Floating Cloud sect. His cultivation base was not low. At present, Lu Wuing and Deng Qingchuan were Yun Haoxuan's guards and main combat force in this trip to the tomb of the Flame Emperor. As for the rest of the Floating Cloud sect, their cultivation base was lower and they were basically cannon fodder. The short elder named Deng Qingchuan nodded and waved his hand. Let's go. As soon as he finished speaking, the group of Floating Cloud sect people landed in the center of the valley and approached the entrance of the tomb of the Flame Emperor. Look, the Floating Cloud sect people have entered. It's the young master of the Floating Cloud sect, Yun Haoxuan. Also, the 2 old men beside him are all high-level elders of the sect. Even a level 8 Mystique Venerable Realm has come. It seems that the Floating Cloud sect is determined to get the treasures in the tomb of the Flame Emperor. Just as Yun Haoxuan led the Floating Cloud sect people into the tomb, the large number of martial artists and various forces that had gathered near the valley became restless. For a moment, the atmosphere was heated. Everyone wanted to get a share of the treasures in the tomb of the Flame Emperor. At present, the Floating Cloud sect, the leader of the 3 rank 4 forces in the Emperor's pit, had already made a move. Moreover, it seemed that they did not trigger the restrictions and formations inside the tomb of the Flame Emperor. Naturally, everyone could not wait. On the other side, in front of the Tyrannical Blade Alliance, the atmosphere was restless. A middle-aged man in black stroked his chin, then raised his eyes to look at the white-robed young man beside him. Hongchen, Yun Haoxuan and his group of people have already entered the tomb of the Flame Emperor and did not trigger any restrictions or formations. It seems that the periphery of the tomb is not too dangerous. However, this is the tomb of an emperor after all, and the owner of the tomb is the famous Flame Emperor of ancient times. There are probably many unknown dangers inside. The white-robed young man carried a broad-faced treasured saber on his back. The blade of the saber was light green and emitted a piercing sharpness, which corresponded with his domineering temperament. It looked extremely extraordinary. Obviously, it was not an ordinary spirit treasure. It was at least above the middle rank of heaven grade. Zhan Hongchen, the young master of the Domineering Blade Alliance, had a cultivation level of level 5 Mystique Venerable Realm. At the same time, he was also a once-in-a-century blade genius. Old Shui, we of the Tyrannical Blade Union are not a bunch of cowards who are afraid of death. Now that Yun Haoxuan dares to enter the tomb, how can we cower behind him? Zhan Hongchen crossed his arms in front of his chest and said calmly, "Besides, it took us a lot of effort to get here. Now that the treasures are right in front of us, how can we return empty-handed?" "That's right." The black-robed middle-aged man grinned and said, "If the Union Master were here, I'm sure he'd have the same thoughts as you." His name was Cui Gu, and he was an expert of the Tyrannical Blade Union. His cultivation base was unfathomable, and he had followed the Union Master of the Tyrannical Blade Union through many battles in his early years. He was considered a senior figure in the Union. Like the other level 8 Mystique Venerable Realm expert beside Zhan Hongchen, Cui Gu was his personal bodyguard. Whether it was the strongest Floating Cloud sect, the Tyrannical Blade Union, or the Flowing Cloud sect, these 3 forces had all sent high-level Mystique Venerable Realm experts such as Deng Qingchuan and Cui Gu to explore the Flame Emperor's tomb. Let's go. Without further ado, Zhan Hongchen leaped down the valley and entered the ancient tomb. Behind him, Cui Gu led a group of Tyrannical Blade Union members into the tomb. At the front of the Flowing Cloud sect team, a young man in luxurious clothes slowly folded the folding fan in his hand, his eyes gleaming. Yun Haoxuan and Zhan Hongchen have already made their move. I can't fall behind. The finely dressed young man had a delicate face and a graceful and luxurious temperament. He looked like a young master of a wealthy family. He held a white feathered folding fan in his hand. He did not look like a cultivator, but a harmless playboy. Third brother. The finely dressed young man looked at a bald fatty beside him who was bare-chested and holding a wine gourd in his hand. Do a head count. Let's hurry into the tomb. If we're late, the treasures in the tomb might be taken by Yun Haoxuan and Zhan Hongchen first. Yes, young master. The bald fatty put away his wine gourd and burped. His chubby face flushed red. I've been waiting for you to say that. Don't worry. With me around, these guys won't be able to do anything. The bald fatty's name was Hong San. He was the sworn brother of the Flowing Cloud Sect's Hong family. He had a powerful cultivation base and a high position. All the disciples in the sect had to address him as third master. As for the young man in luxurious clothes in front of Hong San, he was the Flowing Cloud Sect's #1 genius, Hong Xian, the young master of the Hong family. His cultivation base was no weaker than Yun Haoxuan of the Floating Cloud Sect and Zhan Hongchen of the Tyrannical Blade Union. Go go go! The treasures belong to the strong. Damn it! How dare you block my way? You don't want to live anymore, do you? Those who block me will die. After the martial artists of the Floating Cloud Sect, Tyrannical Blade Union, and Flowing Cloud Sect entered the tomb, the martial artists gathered near the valley swarmed toward the entrance of the Flame Emperor's tomb. In an instant the atmosphere reached its peak. Some of the martial artists even started to fight before entering the tomb. Battle cries could be heard everywhere, and the situation was very chaotic. Ridiculous, they're already fighting before entering the tomb? When we enter the Flame Emperor's tomb, won't these guys kill each other to fight for the treasures? Seeing the chaos in the valley, Fei Ren found it funny. Big brother, let's not waste any time. Let's go in too? Ma Bai leaned over and asked softly. Although he was not very mature, and was only like a 14 or 15-year-old human youth, he also knew that the treasures were hard to find. After all, the person buried under the valley was the famous Flame Emperor from ancient times. Let's go. Fei Ren nodded and flew toward the valley below. Now, entering the Flame Emperor's tomb was just the beginning. The fight for the treasures was the real highlight. Inside the Flame Emperor's tomb, it was desolate. Look, what's that? The group had just stepped into the interior of the mausoleum when they were greeted by a large group of unknown creatures. They were like a gathering of black clouds, and ear-piercing cries could be heard everywhere. The entire mausoleum was filled with nothingness wherever the black clouds passed. This is a swarm of obsidian bugs? Facing the large black cloud, Yun Haoxuan was also stunned. Then, he squinted his eyes. Obsidian bugs were ancient poisonous bugs that contained deadly toxins in their bodies. Normal people would find it difficult to defend against their venom. Even some martial artists with high cultivation would be turned into a pool of blood on the spot after being bitten. Not even their bones would be left behind. Right now, the main body of the large black cloud gathering inside the tomb was a swarm of obsidian bugs. And these obsidian bugs were densely packed like a complete swarm. There were at least 1 million of them. Chapter 701. A swarm of obsidian bugs. Unlike Yun Haoxuan's reaction, Zhan Hongchen frowned slightly as a trace of doubt appeared on his face. Why would there be such poisonous bugs here? As far as I know, weren't these poisonous bugs extinct thousands of years ago? As the young master of the domineering Blade Alliance, Zhan Hongchen was naturally knowledgeable and had seen much more than ordinary martial artists. The swarm of obsidian bugs that were wreaking havoc in the tomb actually had a long history. They were a type of bug that originated from ancient times and had been extinct for many years. However, a swarm of extinct obsidian bugs had suddenly appeared in the Flame Emperor's tomb. They were obviously extremely rare. Unlike ordinary demonic beasts, obsidian bugs were a special type of bug. Although they were highly poisonous, they did not have demonic cores and were generally worthless. The only advantage of obsidian bugs was the unique bug crystals that they bred. These bug crystals could be used as raw materials for refining high-tier spirit treasures. The purer the bug crystal, the more valuable it was. It could even be comparable to a heavenly-grade pill. However, due to the strong toxicity of the obsidian insects themselves, as well as the powerful destructive power brought about by their swarms, ordinary cultivators did not dare to contend with them at all. Most of them would stay far away from them, and very few would risk their lives to scheme for these insect crystals. Young Master, in front of the Flowing Cloud sect team, Hong San stepped forward and took a sip of wine. "Do you need me to do it?" These obsidian bugs that have been extinct for many years were probably left behind by the tomb owner, the Flame Emperor. They were used as spirit beasts to guard the tomb and protect his tomb from being disturbed by outsiders. As a rank 8 mystique venerable realm expert, Hong San was very powerful. Although the swarm of obsidian bugs before him had extraordinary destructive power and ordinary martial artists would not dare to fight against them, he was not afraid at all. With Hong San's strength, it was only a matter of time before he destroyed this swarm of obsidian bugs. "It's just a swarm of bugs. How can you do it yourself, third brother?" Hong Xian said calmly in response to Hong San's suggestion. At the same time, he looked at Hong San meaningfully. "Third master, young master, but with these poisonous bugs blocking the way, we can't get through." Hearing this, the group of Flowing Cloud sect disciples at the back also looked at each other in confusion. They then looked at the two people in front of them, as if they were somewhat confused. With the swarm of obsidian bugs blocking their way, it would be difficult for them to even escape unscathed, let alone enter the tomb to obtain the treasure. After all, apart from young Master Hong Xian and Hong San, most of the Flowing Cloud sect's disciples were only at the Martial King realm. It would be difficult for them to deal with this swarm of obsidian bug. If they were to force their way into the tomb, they might suffer a great loss and be devoured by the swarm of bugs. "What's the rush?" Hong Xian's face was full of disdain as he continued, "Don't forget that apart from us, there are still many ants that are ready to make a move. As long as these ants are here, a swarm of obsidian bugs won't be able to stop us." After he finished speaking, the corners of Hong Xian's mouth revealed a cold smile. His gaze landed on the Floating Cloud sect and the Tyrannical Blade Alliance. Clearly, he was hinting at something. Get someone else to do the dirty work. At this moment, the group of Flowing Cloud sect's disciples also suddenly understood the meaning behind the other party's words. Indeed, apart from the Flowing Cloud sect's disciples, there were two other rank 4 forces in the tomb, as well as a large number of martial artists from all over the place. In the face of everyone's greed, a swarm of obsidian bugs would not be able to stop them. There would always be some people who would not be able to resist the temptation and rush in to obtain the treasure, willing to be cannon fodder. After all, when a person's desire grew to a certain extent, they could even ignore the threat of death. This was human nature. Gulp, gulp, in contrast to everyone's guesses, Hong San took out his wine gourd again and drank a little wine. He did not react to the swarm of obsidian bugs swarming in from all directions. His expression was very calm, as expected of the all-powerful Lord Flame Emperor of the ancient times. A mere burial ground like this actually raised a swarm of extinct obsidian bugs. TSK, in front of the Tyrannical Blade Alliance's team, a meaningful smile flashed across Chui Gu's cold face. With these poisonous bugs guarding, ordinary martial artists below the mystique venerable realm will not be able to get close to this place. Even if they discover the entrance to the tomb, it will be useless. As an elder of the Tyrannical Blade Alliance and a rank 8 mystique venerable realm expert, Chui Gu knew very well that the dangers and opportunities within an Emperor realm expert's tomb were infinitely synchronized. The swarm of obsidian bugs at the entrance was just the beginning. The real test had yet to come. Be careful. As long as you avoid the mouthparts of these bugs and don't get poisoned, you'll be fine. Like Cui Gu, Zhan Hongchen was not in a hurry to make a move. He only instructed his subordinates to be careful. It's just a swarm of bugs. Now that the treasures left behind by the Emperor Realm Tomb are right in front of us, what's there to be afraid of? In the crowd, a skinny Martial King Realm itinerant cultivator with a sallow face could not help but charge out. He wanted to break through the swarm of obsidian bugs and kill his way into the depths of the tomb. Idiot! Yun Haoxuan's lips curled into a cold smile as he shook his head. His opponent's cultivation level was only rank 4 Martial King Realm. Although he was not too weak, he would not be able to resist the swarm of obsidian bugs that blotted out the sky. Only death awaited him. Accompanied by a shrill scream, the Martial King Realm itinerant cultivator was instantly devoured by the swarm of obsidian bugs. His entire body turned into a pool of blood, leaving not even a bone behind. He was completely powerless to resist. These poisonous bugs can devour a person instantly and turn him into a pool of blood. Seeing this, the crowd's expression changed slightly as they were greatly shocked. There's no way out. Damn it, let's fight. Since we're going to die anyway, let's give it a try. Kill. In the face of the swarm of obsidian bugs that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, the crowd retreated rapidly. In the end, they had no choice but to turn around and attack the swarm of obsidian bugs. In an instant, the tomb was filled with the radiance of swords and cries of war. Soon, under the frenzied attack of the swarm of obsidian bugs, a large number of martial artists who had entered the Emperor Flame's tomb suffered heavy casualties. From the initial tens of thousands of martial artists, the number of martial artists had been reduced to only 3,000 to 4,000. Among them, most of the martial artists and itinerant cultivators who survived were above LV8 Martial King Realm. The scene was extremely tragic. On the other hand, the Floating Cloud Sect, the Tyrannical Blade Alliance, and the Flowing Cloud Sect, which were rank 4 forces, were completely intact. Only 1 or 2 of them had unfortunately been poisoned by the obsidian bugs and had turned into a pool of blood. There were not many casualties. What a good way to kill with a borrowed knife. These people are indeed cunning. After killing hundreds of obsidian bugs with one slash, Fei Ren slowly wiped off the bloodstains on his saber. At the same time, he looked up at his surroundings and sighed. After this reshuffle, there are almost no weaklings who survived. At this time, the entrance of the tomb was already in a mess. There was a foul stench of blood, black water, and countless corpses of poisonous bugs everywhere. At this moment, most of the obsidian bugs that were wreaking havoc in the surroundings had been wiped out by the crowd and could not stop them from moving forward. However, this was not a small price to pay. Almost half of the martial artists were dead or injured. Other than the Floating Cloud Sect, the Tyrannical Blade Alliance, and the Flowing Cloud Sect, the rest of the smaller forces and itinerant cultivators suffered heavy casualties. Obviously, this was the Floating Cloud Sect, the Tyrannical Blade Alliance, and the Flowing Cloud Sect's plan to kill with a borrowed knife. They used the martial artists, itinerant cultivators, and disciples of the smaller sects who had entered the Emperor Flame's tomb as cannon fodder while preserving their own strength. Chapter 702. This thing is an insect crystal? Fei Ren was slightly surprised as he picked up a piece of strange black crystal from the obsidian insects' carcasses on the ground. This was a treasure that the obsidian insects had accumulated over the years. It was called an insect crystal. It was usually stored in the insect's stomach and could be used to refine some high-grade spirit treasures. I didn't expect that the obsidian insect's saliva would look good after condensing into a solid crystal. It feels like a warm jade. Fei Ren gently wiped the black insect crystal in his hand and then kept it in his spirit ring. Although the insect crystal was rare, it was essentially the saliva of the obsidian insect. The saliva of these insects had been refined by the venom and condensed into a solid crystal. It became extremely smooth and hard at the same time. For those who knew their stuff, these insect crystals that were derived from the saliva of the obsidian insects were not disgusting at all. Instead, they were valuable and could be sold for a lot of money. So many insect crystals. Damn it, I'm rich now! I heard that some craftsmen would pay a high price to buy these special insect crystals. They are worth a lot. Some of the surviving cultivators also spread out, burying their heads in the carcasses of the obsidian insects, searching for these valuable insect crystals. Some cultivators even fought with each other for these insect crystals. After all, even if they only got a little insect crystal, they could exchange it for a lot of primordial stones, even the rare supreme-grade primordial stones. And in the martial artist world, primordial stones were the most valuable wealth. Kid, stop. Hand over the insect crystals in your hand. Just as Fei-Ren was silently collecting the insect crystals, a loud shout came from afar. In the next moment, a middle-aged man in a loose martial robe flew over and blocked Fei-Ren's path of retreat. His eyes were full of fire. Good kid, you stole a lot of insect crystals just now, right? Hand them all over and I can spare your life. The middle-aged man sneered. He just found out that Lin Huang had collected a lot of insect crystals and some of them were of excellent quality. Swoosh. However, Fei-Ren dodged the attack and flew into the depths of the mausoleum. Little bastard! You are courting death. Seeing that Fei-Ren was ignoring him, the middle-aged man flew into a rage. He immediately slashed out with the sword in his hand, aiming at Fei-Ren's back. The middle-aged man's cultivation was not weak. He had reached LV-10 Martial Emperor realm. In his opinion, Fei-Ren was at most a young disciple from a small clan, who was inexperienced and could be easily killed. Noisy! Fei-Ren did not even turn his head. He turned around and threw a punch. The Overlord's demonic tattoo was infused with the powerful half-step mystique, venerable rank energy. In an instant, the middle-aged man's longsword was shattered. The remaining force of the punch landed heavily on his opponent's body. Bang! His fist pierced through the middle-aged man's heart meridian. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. The middle-aged man's expression changed drastically, turning deathly pale. You're actually a half-step mystique venerable? Rumble. Die. Before he could finish his words, Fei-Ren pulled out the star-shattering blade with a flip of his hand. A stellar source/blade chi swept out and instantly cut the corpse into pieces, killing it on the spot. So weak. After killing the middle-aged man, Fei-Ren used the smelting immortal cauldron to devour the middle-aged man's corpse. His origin energy had improved a little. This young man is so strong. TSK. He easily killed a LV-10 Martial Emperor realm martial artist. This lad must be a young genius from a big clan or a top sect in the outside world. Why does this guy look so familiar? And that crescent-shaped snow-white broadsword? This guy seems to be the cold-blooded saber demon who recently rose to fame on the wicked list. Seeing that Fei-Ren had easily killed the middle-aged man, some of the rogue cultivators around them looked over and started discussing with different expressions. Cold-blooded saber demon? Is this the lad? Zhan Hongqian crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked curiously at Fei-Ren, who was not far away. As the young chief of the tyrannical Saber Alliance, he was proficient in saber techniques and had great strength. Now, seeing that Fei-Ren was also a saber cultivator like him and had great strength, Zhan Hongqian was also curious about Fei-Ren's background. In front of the Flowing Cloud sect team. Who is this lad? I'm quite familiar with the big forces around the Imperial Pit. Why haven't I heard of him before? Hong Xian was surprised and looked at Fei-Ren, who was not far away. Although his origin energy cultivation was only at the half-step mystique venerable realm, which was far inferior to Hong Xian's, He was proficient in saber techniques and was quite young. More importantly, Fei Ren's strength was only the tip of the iceberg. His true strength was far beyond that. Young master, this little fellow seems to be a genius who has appeared recently. He is the cold-blooded blade demon who has a little reputation on the villain ranking. Should we go and recruit him? Hong San by the side also withdrew his wine gourd and probed. He seemed to have seen through Hong Xian's thoughts. No hurry, let's observe him first. Hong Xian shook his head, which was a rare occurrence. He said cautiously, "Third brother, you know what kind of people are recorded on the wicked list. It is not easy to rope in these desperados to be our friends. We have to be careful." Ha ha ha. Hong San grinned as well when he heard this, and he took the opportunity to flatter Qin Shi. "That's true. Young master really has a discerning eye." The entrance of the tomb was in chaos. "Young sect master, are we just going to let these people snatch the insect crystals?" Looking at the many martial artists crazily plundering the scattered insect crystals, the short elder Deng Qingchuan looked at Yun Haoshuan in front of him with some confusion. "These insect crystals can be exchanged for a lot of primordial stones. Why don't I go and snatch some and bring them back to the sect?" As a level 8 mystique venerable realm martial artist, although these insect crystals did not catch his eye, they were still valuable and could be exchanged for a lot of primordial stones. Now, it was a pity to just leave them here and waste them. In Deng Qingchuan's opinion, it was a pity. It's just some insect crystals. Compared to the treasures in the entire Flame Emperor's tomb, it's nothing. Our floating cloud sect is the head of the 3 great 4th-grade forces in the Imperial Pit. We have a deep foundation. How can we be attracted by this little profit? Yun Haoshuan looked contemptuously at the people fighting for the insect crystals and said arrogantly, "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Haoshuan flew away and headed deeper into the Flame Emperor's tomb. The scattered insect crystals were still being fought over by the crowd. It was obvious that he was not interested in them at all. In the beginning, he had come for the true inheritance of the Flame Emperor's tomb. Now, these insect crystals could not catch Yun Haoshuan's eye at all. It was fine even if he did not want them. Beside him, Lu Wuing also glanced at him and said in a playful tone, "Old Deng, you're a little greedy. You can't move when you see something good. The young sect master is right. Compared to the true inheritance of the Flame Emperor's tomb, these insect crystals are nothing. TSK, I'm just used to it. I didn't expect that the young sect master would not be interested in these insect crystals." Deng Qingchuan touched his big bald head and looked a little embarrassed. As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them moved and led a group of floating cloud sect people to follow Yun Haoshuan. Chapter 703. After a chaotic battle, the insect crystals that were left behind at the scene were swept clean by the crowd. About 50 of them. The harvest this time is not bad. Fei Ren counted the obsidian insect crystals in his spirit ring and nodded. Although the quality of these insect crystals was generally low, and some of them had flaws on the surface, there were enough of them. If Fei Ren sold all of these insect crystals, they could be sold for at least a few million upper-grade primordial stones in the black market. Although it was not as good as the spirit bone, it was not far off. At the same time, on the other side of the tomb entrance, "Commander, we're rich. So many insect crystals. These are high-grade materials for forging spiritual treasures. We can definitely sell them for a good price." A few martial artists dressed in guard uniforms sat at the side, looking excited. One of them had a full beard, and his eyes were as big as copper bells. He was Fan Dabiao, who wanted to challenge Fei Ren in Thunder City. Beside Fan Dabiao was Troy's trusted butler, Wu Yong, and a few guards from the Castellan's mansion. The appearance of the tomb of the Flame Emperor had attracted the attention of all the major forces in Thunder City. Apart from the City Lord's mansion under Troy's control, the other two major forces,
the Rakshasa Guild and the Heavenly Eagle sect, had sent their men to the Buzhou mountain range to gather information. Wu Yong, Fan Dabiao, and the rest were sent to the tomb of the Flame Emperor in the Buzhou mountain range by the great elder of the Castellan's mansion, Qin Xian. Dabiao, calm down. Don't forget why we're here. Wu Yong looked at the excited Fan Dabiao and calmed down a little. We're only here to gather information. We don't have the strength to compete with the Floating Cloud sect, the Tyrannical Sword Alliance, and the Flowing Cloud sect for the inheritance and treasures in the tomb of the Flame Emperor. Originally, with their cultivation and strength, they were not qualified to enter this place, let alone the tomb of the Flame Emperor. After all, most of them were martial kings, and the strongest among them was Wu Yong, who was a half-step to Mystique Venerable. A few martial kings and a half-step to Mystique Venerable. Such a team composition in the tomb of the Flame Emperor would be cannon fodder. No one could beat them. If they were attacked by the obsidian bugs again, Wu Yong and the others would be wiped out in a matter of minutes. However, the violent lightning exalt Troy was still in closed-door cultivation while the Grand Elder, Qin Xian, had to preside over the headquarters of the city governor's estate and was unable to leave. So, he'd sent Wu Yong and the others to scout the way. Yes, Commander. Hearing this, Fan Dabiao scratched his head awkwardly. The other party's words were not without reason. They were only here to inquire about information, and they were not qualified to compete with the Floating Cloud sect, the Tyrannical Saber Union, and the Flowing Cloud sect. Now, they were already very lucky to be able to get some soup and a few dozen insect crystals for free. Just as Wu Yong, Fan Dabiao, and the others were about to leave the Yen Emperor's tomb, something strange happened. Ah! A LV8 Martial King Realm Rogue Cultivator in the crowd suddenly screamed. The next moment, his limbs twitched and he fell to the ground. Blood frothed from his mouth. His face became extremely twisted and ferocious, as if he was possessed. What was going on? Seeing this scene, a portion of the cultivators were also surprised, and they all looked at the rogue cultivator. Pfft! In the next moment, the crowd could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Countless ink-colored tentacles suddenly grew out of the rogue cultivator's body. At this moment they were twisting strangely like withered branches. Drops of blood dripped onto the ground, and it was extremely terrifying. In less than a few breaths, the rogue cultivator was dead. He was sucked dry by the ink-colored tentacles. His entire body, together with his head, was split into two like an empty shell. Only a wriggling black shadow was faintly discernible, trying to surge out of the corpse shell. Damn! What was that? Seeing this, a portion of the cultivators felt their scalps go numb, and they were instantly disgusted. After all, insect-like tentacles suddenly grew out of a human's body, and they were dripping with thick blood. It was truly terrifying. This is the obsidian insect queen hatching? Not far away, Fei Ren, who had also noticed this strange scene, stopped and frowned slightly. Although the obsidian insect was an extinct ancient poisonous insect, it was not strong. Any martial king could easily kill it, unless a large number of obsidian insects gathered in group. Only the rare obsidian insect queen had the ability to gather and reproduce in groups. Now, this unlucky martial king rogue cultivator was unfortunately targeted by the larva of the obsidian insect queen. As the host for the parasite's revival, he died in a daze, without leaving behind a corpse. So this larva of the obsidian insect queen hid in the body of a human cultivator. Not only did it avoid being hunted down by the enemy, but it also prevented the extinction of its entire race. Although this is just an insignificant insect, it's quite smart. Thinking of this, Feiren grinned and immediately gave up on the idea of going deeper into the Flame Emperor's tomb. This was because the obsidian insect queen had a rare treasure on it, and that was the insect crystal. Moreover, the insect crystal that the obsidian insect queen produced was not an ordinary insect crystal, but a supreme-grade insect crystal. Although these insect crystals were accumulated from the saliva secretion of the obsidian insect over the years, there were still differences in quality. The obsidian insect queen's body was more special. It secreted very little saliva each time, and at the same time, the number of insect crystals it produced was also very limited. Moreover, the quality was higher. These insect crystals that were produced by the obsidian insect queen were usually called supreme-grade insect crystals, and their value was much higher than ordinary insect crystals. Even a small piece of supreme-grade insect crystal could be sold at a sky-high price. This was because the supreme-grade insect crystal was an excellent material for forging honorable spirit treasures, and was highly favored by many weapon refiners. As for the rarity of honorable spirit treasures, it was self-evident that it was much more powerful than earthly and heavenly spirit treasures. Its power was not on the same level at all. Even Fei Ren's star-shattering knife that was strengthened by the cast dragon cauldron was only a heavenly low-tier spirit treasure. This showed how rare the supreme-grade insect crystal was. Having this thing was equivalent to having another honorable spirit treasure. At this moment, in front of the floating cloud sect team. It's a supreme-grade insect crystal. Seeing that the obsidian insect queen had swallowed a human rogue cultivator and successfully molted, Deng Qingchuan, who was one of the left and right guards, also had his eyes lit up. He immediately cupped his hands toward Yun Haoshuan beside him and spoke in a greedy tone. Young sect leader, you might not be interested in this supreme-grade insect crystal, but I'm very interested. A supreme-grade insect crystal is a good material for forging honorable spirit treasures. Yun Haoshuan nodded slightly, then glanced at Deng Qingchuan and said indifferently, however, you'd better act quickly. Although this supreme-grade insect crystal is valuable, don't forget the real purpose of our trip. Yes, young sect leader. I'll be back immediately. Hearing this, Deng Qingchuan also cupped his hands and said respectfully. Then, he turned into a stream of light and left the floating cloud sex team. He charged toward the crowd not far away. Obviously, he could not wait to seize the supreme-grade insect crystal. Chapter 704. Squeak. Squeak. The obsidian insect queen that had absorbed all of the blood essence was now fully resurrected. It let out a strange squeak. The obsidian insect queen was not big. It was only the size of a human palm. However, its aura was terrifying. It was comparable to a rank 3 mystique venerable. At the same time, it reeked of blood, which deterred people from approaching it. That guy is dead, one of the martial artists in the crowd exclaimed. On the ground beside the obsidian insect queen, the martial king's body had turned into a shell. All that was left was a layer of wrinkled skin and dregs. Not even a bone was left. It was obvious that he had died after his blood essence was sucked dry. Where did this insect come from? Is it also a obsidian insect? Another martial king realm expert questioned in a shocked tone. After all, this obsidian insect queen was different from the swarm of obsidian insects that had attacked them before. It was even stronger. Not only did this obsidian insect queen know how to hide in a human's body, it could also devour the blood essence of human martial artists to grow stronger. Squeak. Just as the crowd was in a standoff, the obsidian insect queen suddenly let out a shrill cry. In the next moment, a long black tentacle shot out from its tail and went straight for a young man in a brocade robe. The young man in the brocade robe had a handsome face. He held a snake-shaped sword in his hand. His aura was not weak. He was already a half-step mystique venerable. Among the crowd, he was not considered weak. This insect wants to attack me? Seeing that he was suddenly targeted by the obsidian insect queen, the young man in the brocade robe's expression changed. He was furious and swung his sword. Die! Zing! His sword flashed and his aura swept across the sky like a waterfall. Clang! 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 Boom! However, in the next moment, The obsidian insect queen's tentacles deflected the endless sword flashes and turned them into nothingness. They did not even manage to break through its shell. What? The young man in the brocade robe was shocked when his attack was blocked. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Splat. Ah! Before he could react, the obsidian insect queen's tentacle pierced through his chest. Blood splattered everywhere. The young man in the brocade robe turned pale immediately. He then let out a scream as his blood essence was sucked dry and he died. Another one is dead. When they saw this scene, the hearts of everyone present couldn't help but tighten as if they were facing a great enemy. Squeak, squeak, squeak. After absorbing the blood essence of the brocade-robed young man, the obsidian bug mother's strength had grown even stronger. It was now comparable to a level 5 mystique, venerable realm human martial artist. Run! At this moment, everyone couldn't help but feel the urge to retreat. However, the newly awakened obsidian bug mother did not plan to let them go so easily. Currently, the experts from the Floating Cloud sect, the Tyrannical Blade Alliance, and the Flowing Cloud sect had all left. Most of the people who stayed behind were martial kings, and only a few of them were half-step mystique venerable rank and mystique venerable rank experts. Unless they worked together, it would be very difficult to fight against the menacing obsidian broodmother. The scene was a chaotic mess. Occasionally, there would be a few cultivators who couldn't escape in time and had their blood essence sucked dry by the obsidian insect mother, turning them into dried corpses. Don't block the way. Deng Qingchuan landed on the ground and saw a rogue cultivator running towards him. Deng Qingchuan frowned and killed him with a palm strike. Is it there? Ha 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 ha, it really is a obsidian bug queen. I've picked up a treasure this time. Deng Qingchuan's eyes lit up as he stared greedily at the obsidian bug queen that was massacring not far away. He looked a little excited. Although the obsidian bug queen had just awakened and secreted a limited amount of insect crystals, it was still a high-quality insect crystal. Even a small amount was enough to forge an honorable rank spiritual treasure. At this moment, Fei Ren did not run away immediately as he was being pursued by the obsidian bug queen. Firstly, he was also interested in the insect crystals in the obsidian bug queen's body. Even a small amount was worth far more than the 50 ordinary insect crystals he had. Secondly, Fei Ren coincidentally bumped into Wu Yong and the others who were there to gather information in the Flame Emperor's tomb. Brother Wu, why did you guys come here? Fei Ren was surprised when he saw Wu Yong, Fan Dabiao, and the others. With their cultivation level, coming here was a suicide mission. Although a half-step mystique venerable rank was not considered weak in the outside world, this was the Flame Emperor's tomb after all. Countless powerhouses had come here after hearing the news, hoping to get their hands on the treasures and opportunities left behind by the Emperor. Even a mystique venerable rank powerhouse could not guarantee that they could escape unscathed. As for those below mystique venerable rank, they were basically cannon fodder. Sigh, it's a long story. Wu Yong sighed, looking helpless. Young master. Fan Dabiao and the others were shocked. They looked at Fei Ren with admiration and admiration. At first, they did not know that he was the cold-blooded blade demon who had recently risen to fame on the villain ranking. Not only that, but Fei Ren's strength was also several times stronger than when he was in Thunder City. I didn't expect young Master Fei to be the cold-blooded blade demon himself. Yeah, as expected of the successor personally chosen by the Castellan. With a cultivation level below mystique venerable rank, he managed to kill several powerhouses on the villain ranking. That's right. I heard that young Master Fei's bounty and ranking on the villain ranking have increased again. He's now in the top 10. A few surviving Castellan Mansion martial artists discussed in low voices, their words full of admiration. Alright, stop flattering me. This is not a place where you can stay. If you want to live, you'd better leave quickly. Fei Ren looked at the crowd again and finally fixed his gaze on Wu Yong. Brother Wu,
I'm sure you know how dangerous the Flame Emperor's tomb is. Even if you didn't encounter the Obsidian Bug Mother's attack, any of the powerhouses sent by the three major forces would be enough to wipe you out. Just like one of Yun Haoxuan's two bodyguards, Deng Qingchuan, who was at level 8 Mystique Venerable rank. This person was so strong that even Fei Ren did not dare to face him head-on. Yes, we originally wanted to find out the truth about the appearance of the Flame Emperor's tomb. We didn't expect the information to be true. Wu Yong's face was filled with emotion and fear. If it were not for Fei Ren's help, they would not have survived. Sooner or later, they would have become the Obsidian Bug Mother's food. By the way, young master, aren't you coming back to Thunder City with us? Seeing that Fei Ren did not plan to leave, Wu Yong's heart skipped a beat and he quickly asked to test him. Fei Ren shook his head and said, "Now that the treasures in the Flame Emperor's tomb have not been found, opportunities are hard to come by. I can't miss this opportunity. Go back and tell Senior Troy that I'm very lucky and won't die. Men die for wealth and birds die for food." Now that the Flame Emperor's tomb had appeared, he wanted a share of the hidden treasures and opportunities. Naturally, he would not leave so easily. Moreover, with Fei Ren's current strength and cultivation coupled with Mobai's assistance, he wasn't afraid at all even if the members of the three great powers wanted to target him. This was the confidence brought about by strength. Chapter 705. All right. Hearing this, Wu Yong could only nod his head. He had seen the other party's current strength, which had far exceeded everyone's imagination. Although Fei Ren was only a half-step to Mystique Venerable and had not truly stepped into the Mystique Venerable realm to comprehend the ability of Life Chart, his true strength was already enough to crush an ordinary Mystique Venerable. Unless a high-level Mystique Venerable like Deng Qingchuan personally attacked, no one would be able to do anything to Fei Ren. "Young master, we'll leave now." "Wait." Fan Dabiao and the others cupped their fists at Fei Ren and were about to leave when they were stopped by the other party. "There are some good things in here. Take them, they might be useful." After saying that, Fei Ren took out a top-grade spirit ring and threw it to Fan Dabiao and the others, one for each of them. These spirit rings contained many primordial stones, herbs, and other treasures. Most of them were looted by Fei Ren from the ruins of the ancient weapon refining sect. He had kept some of the most valuable treasures for himself, and most of the rest were useless to him. "Young master, these are?" Wu Yong raised his hand and took the spirit ring with a surprised expression. "There are some weapon refining blueprints that have been lost since ancient times. I heard that you're quite knowledgeable in weapon refining. They might be of some help to you," Fei Ren grinned. He had no use for these weapon refining blueprints. At most, he could sell them for some primordial stones. It was not a bad idea to give them to Wu Yong to win him over. After all, Wu Yong was the steward of Thunder City's City Lord Mansion and was capable. In the future, regardless of whether Fei Ren was in charge of Thunder City or not, with Wu Yong and the others helping him manage the City Lord Mansion, he could be considered to be in control of a force. After all, in the martial arts world, one would always be at a disadvantage if one fought alone. Only with subordinates would one be able to succeed. Back in the eastern mainland's Blazing Sun region, Fei Ren had agreed to join the Blazing Flame sect with Zishu Zhenren Fengyun for the same reason. With a backer behind him, there was nothing to worry about. Weapon refining blueprints? Hearing that, Wu Yong was delighted. He cupped his fists at the other party and spoke respectfully. "Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master." Not only the other party, Fan Dabiao and the others also knelt down and spoke in unison. They had already regarded Fei Ren as the new master of Thunder City. After Wu Yong and the rest left, the sounds of killing gradually subsided. Gurgle gurgle, the obsidian bug queen seemed to have reached the limit of its absorption of blood essence. At this moment, it retracted its black tentacles and stopped attacking the surrounding cultivators. At the same time, it lay down on a rock, its abdomen rising and falling slightly as if it was about to hatch its offspring. At that moment there were less than 100 surviving martial artists. Aside from Fei Ren, the weakest among them was a rank 1 mystique venerable. Everyone looked exhausted and their bodies were covered in blood as they glared angrily at Deng Qingchuan, who was not far away. The other party stood with his hands behind his back. His expression was calm, and he had no intention of making a move. Deng Qingchuan, aren't you going to make a move? We'll all die here once the worms hatch. Among the crowd, a mystique venerable could not help but shout angrily. The other party was a rank 8 mystique venerable. If Deng Qingchuan personally made a move, the Obsidian Bug Queen would not have the chance to kill so many martial artists and would not have the extra blood essence to hatch its eggs. You want to teach me how to do things? Deng Qingchuan glanced coldly at the other party, a cold murderous intent appearing in his eyes. You? Seeing this, the mystique venerable's expression turned ugly. He then gritted his teeth and did not dare to talk back, as if he knew that he was no match for Deng Qingchuan. Trash. Seeing that the other party had instantly admitted defeat, Deng Qingchuan snorted coldly and looked at the Obsidian Bug Queen that was laying on a rock not far away. There was a reason why he did not make a move just now. He was waiting for the Obsidian Bug Queen to secrete the highest quality insect crystal. Only when the Obsidian Bug Queen had discharged all the eggs in its abdomen would it secrete the insect crystal again. That way, Deng Qingchuan would be able to obtain a complete piece of the highest quality insect crystal. If he had killed the Obsidian Bug Queen just now, he would only have obtained a small piece of incomplete insect crystal. Although it was still a highest quality insect crystal, it was much smaller in size. Soon, the Obsidian Bug Queen stopped ovulating. The incubation is finally complete. Seeing that the Obsidian Bug Queen had finished ovulating all the eggs, Deng Qingchuan smiled. It's time for me to make a move. Die. Deng Qingchuan flew out and blasted out a giant palm made of elemental energy towards the weakened obsidian broodmother. Boom. Creak, creak, creak. The palm energy swept through the air and turned into streaks of yellow light. They immediately cut open the Obsidian Bug Queen's tail, leaving behind a large pool of strange black blood. Even the Bug Queen's tentacles were cut off. Although the Obsidian Bug Queen's strength had decreased greatly after ovulating and was not even at rank 5 Mystique Venerable, Deng Qingchuan was still a rank 8 Mystique Venerable. His strength was not to be trifled with. Even if the Obsidian Bug Queen was at its peak, it was still no match for Deng Qingchuan. It was only a matter of time before it died. Creak! With its tail injured, the Obsidian Bug Queen let out a furious and terrified cry. Its small bean-like eyes looked at Deng Qingchuan. In the next moment, it opened its mouth and spat out a large ball of highly toxic mucus in an attempt to melt Deng Qingchuan. You're just a worm. How dare you go against me? Facing the Obsidian Bug Queen's counterattack, Deng Qingchuan was not angry. Instead, he laughed and waved his sleeve. Billowing origin energy turned into a yellow barrier and blocked all the poisonous liquid. At the same time, he punched the Bug Queen's abdomen. Bam! Deng Qingchuan's powerful fist force was infused with boundless yuan power. With a casual strike, he sent the Obsidian Bug Queen flying. Even its wings were broken, causing blood to flow incessantly. Let's attack together. Seeing that Deng Qingchuan had finally made his move, the surviving martial artists and rogue cultivators also attacked. They once again charged toward the weakened Obsidian Bug Queen, clearly intending to get a share of the loot. After all, the Obsidian Bug Queen had a supreme-grade insect crystal in its body. Moreover, it had finished ovulating. If they did not kill it as soon as possible, a swarm of obsidian bugs would attack them when all the eggs hatched. Then, they would be in grave danger. Soon, the Obsidian Bug Queen died tragically under the siege of the crowd. It died on the spot. Crack!
Deng Qingchuan cut open the obsidian broodmother's body with a single slash, revealing a dazzling light inside. It was transparent and white, a rare top-grade insect crystal. Moreover, it was a whole piece, half the size of a human head. I've finally got the supreme-grade insect crystal. Looking at the huge piece of supreme-grade insect crystal, Deng Qingchuan was excited. The supreme-grade insect crystal was a rare crafting material. It could be used to craft honorable spiritual treasures. As long as there were no accidents during the crafting process, the quality of the spiritual treasures would be at least lower honorable spiritual treasures. If it was a highly skilled craftsman, he could even craft an upper honorable spiritual treasure with this piece of supreme-grade insect crystal. It was infinitely close to a divine spiritual treasure. Even the star-shattering knife in Fei Ren's hand was only a heaven-grade low-tier spirit treasure. Chapter 706. Bam! Deng Qingchuan crushed the obsidian insect queen's carcass into powder with one palm and took out the large piece of top-grade insect crystal. Yun Haoshuan, Lu Wuying, and the others had led the floating cloud sect's troops into the depths of the Flame Emperor's tomb. As one of the two guards, he could not waste any more time here. Deng Qingchuan, are you planning to take the top-grade insect crystal for yourself? Seeing Deng Qingchuan's actions, the expressions of the people nearby changed. One of the Mystique, Venerable Realm martial artists shouted, "What? Are you unhappy?" Deng Qingchuan looked at him with disdain and said coldly, "Or do you want to die too? TSK." Hearing that, the Mystique, Venerable Realm martial artist gritted his teeth. He seemed to be weak and did not dare to face Lu Xian directly. His origin power cultivation was only at level 2 Mystique, Venerable Realm, and was no match for Deng Qingchuan. Damn it! So many of us died, but in the end it all went to the Floating Cloud sect? It's so unfair! Everyone should have a share of the top-grade insect crystal. We put in a lot of effort to kill the obsidian insect queen. That's right. Deng Qingchuan was planning to watch from the sidelines and reap the benefits. Facing Deng Qingchuan's overbearing behavior, the crowd was very unhappy and angry. However, they only discussed in low voices and no one dared to stand out. After all, the other party was an inner elder of the Floating Cloud sect and a level 8 Mystique, Venerable Realm martial artist. His strength was unfathomable. Looks like the situation is not intense enough. How can this be? At the edge of the crowd, the scene was also witnessed. Facing the crowd's agitation, Fei Ren rubbed his chin and smirked. "Let me add some fuel to the fire. Big brother, what are you doing?" Ma Bai was confused and looked at the other party in confusion. Could it be that the other party was planning to snatch the top-grade insect crystal from Deng Qingchuan's hands? That was too unrealistic. After all, the other party's cultivation was at level 8 Mystique, Venerable Realm, while Fei Ren was only at half-step Mystique, Venerable Realm. There was a difference of 8 small realms and 1 large realm. Cultivation techniques and spiritual treasures could not make up for the difference in strength. Don't these people dislike Deng Qingchuan's tyrannical behavior? I'll help them, Fei Ren said meaningfully. The next moment, a wisp of pink-colored glazed fire appeared between his right fingers, flickering and jumping. Seeing this, Ma Bai's heart trembled. "Big brother, are you thinking of?" At this moment, the atmosphere was still tense, as if a battle was about to break out. "Scram if you don't want to die." Seeing that the crowd was still glaring at him, Deng Qingchuan frowned and angrily shouted, "I am one of the inner elders of the Floating Cloud sect. You bunch of ants dare to go against me? This supreme grade insect crystal is mine." Facing Deng Qingchuan's threat, a portion of the martial warriors also hesitantly dispersed, making way for him. However, most of the surviving Mystique, Venerable rank warriors did not move an inch. Among them, there was no lack of veteran rank 5 or rank 5 Mystique, Venerable rank experts.
It seemed that they did not intend to let the other party take away the top-grade insect crystal so easily. Go! In the dark of the crowd, Fei-Ren flicked his finger. The next moment, the glazed fire also shot out and instantly turned into a sea of fire, rolling toward Deng Qingchuan, who was not far away. It was an impressive sight. Boom! Deng Qingchuan was also taken aback by the endless sea of fire. What? He had never thought that the group of martial warriors in front of him would dare to snatch the treasure. Moreover, it was a sneak attack from behind. They did not take the floating cloud sect seriously at all. You're courting death. You asked for it. Deng Qingchuan's face was filled with rage as he dispersed the sea of fire with a single palm strike. Billowing yuan power swept out as a majestic war god celestial body appeared behind him. The war god celestial body flickered with a mysterious glow, causing his short stature to involuntarily grow taller. The law phenomenon was his fate ability. It could instantly increase his strength by several times, and at the same time, it could ignore part of the mind power attack. Old bastard! We don't know who will live and who will die. Leave the supreme grade insect crystal and we'll spare your life. What's there to fear from the floating cloud sect? Once we kill this guy, we'll get the supreme grade insect crystal. Just as Fei-Ren's sneak attack failed, a portion of the Mystique Venerable Realm martial warriors who had been blinded by greed became hot-blooded and joined forces to attack Deng Qingchuan. After all, sometimes, a small fuse could be blamed for the outbreak of a fierce battle. Fei-Ren had become the fuse that stirred up the situation and completely ignited the battle. Die! Deng Qingchuan blasted out another palm across the air. Even at his peak, Deng Qingchuan's strength was shocking. He instantly killed the two low-level Mystique Venerable Realm martial warriors who had surrounded him. However, there were still a few dozen Mystique Venerable Realm martial warriors who had survived. Faced with their combined attacks, even Deng Qingchuan, who was at level 8 Mystique Venerable Realm, found it difficult to escape and fell into a bitter battle. The battle was very tense. Due to the excessive consumption of origin energy, Deng Qingchuan's aura gradually decreased and his face was full of fatigue. Boom! Buzz buzz buzz! After killing a few more Mystique Venerable Realm martial warriors, the war god Dharma form behind Deng Qingchuan gradually became illusory. It seemed that more than half of its power had been used up and could no longer maintain the fate ability for a long time. F***CK. Mabai retreated to the edge of the battlefield with a face full of fear. Big brother, these guys are really fighting. Your tactic of driving the tiger to devour the wolf is too sneaky. That's a really good tactic. Previously, Fei-Ren had used the glaze fire to launch a sneak attack in the dark. Mabai did not expect that it would instantly ignite the battle and cause Deng Qingchuan to fall into a bitter battle. This was something that Mabai did not expect. Driving the tiger to devour the wolf, taking advantage of everyone's greed for the supreme-grade insect crystal to scheme against Deng Qingchuan. Even if Deng Qingchuan was a level 8 Mystique Venerable Realm martial warrior, he would not be able to withstand the encirclement of all the Mystique Venerable Realm martial warriors present. At first, Mabai was a little worried that if Fei-Ren had launched a sneak attack on Deng Qingchuan, it would have angered him. Now, it seemed that his worries were unnecessary. Deng Qingchuan could not even take care of himself, and could not care about anything else. He did not even know if Deng Qingchuan could protect the supreme-grade insect crystal in his hands. Hee, it's just a small trick. Fei-Ren grinned. Since these guys want the supreme-grade insect crystal so much, I'll help them. However, the supreme-grade insect crystal will definitely be mine in the end. Second brother, let's hide first and wait for an opportunity to strike. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. At the moment, Fei-Ren was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he hid with Mabai in a corner not far away and watched the battle. He wanted to wait for Deng Qingchuan and the group of Mystique Venerable Realm itinerant cultivators to exhaust themselves. After all, his cultivation was only at half-step mystique venerable realm. If he forcefully took the treasure and joined the battle, there was a high chance that he would die. At this time, he could only win with his wits and use his brain. Okay, big brother. Hearing this, Mabai also nodded. The next moment, he held his breath and focused, trying his best to reduce the origin energy on his body to the lowest level. At the same time, he stared at Deng Qingchuan and the others who were engaged in a fierce battle. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.